much. Good morning. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We have, if you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Becky, if you would help us determine that we have a quorum.
I will do a roll call, please. Board Member Ward.
Present.
Board Member Enriquez is absent. Board Member Macias.
Present.
Board Member Flores, absent. Board Member Ellens. Board Member Gandara is absent. Board Member Sanchez.
Present.
Chair Coran.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. We've been asked, because we have someone joining us on the phone related to the audit, to make a slight modification to the agenda. So I would propose, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the change of moving discussion item 6A, audit entrance presentation.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Move item 6A up to number 5, above reports and presentations, just for the record. Any discussion? Hearing none. Also, I note that Board Member Mayor Pro Tem Gandara is here as well. So, Becky, would you please vote on the agenda, please?
Certainly. Board Member Macias?
Yes.
Thank you. Board Member Ellens?
Yes.
Board Member Gandara?
Yes.
Board Member Sanchez?
Yes.
Chair Coran.
Yes.
Thank you. Also, Board Member Enriquez has joined us.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the board meeting of June 23rd.
I'll move approval.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any amendments, notes, questions on the minutes? Hearing none. If we can vote, please.
Board Member Macias?
Yes.
Thank you. Board Member Ellens?
Yes.
Board Member Gandara?
Yes.
Board Member Sanchez?
Yes.
Chair Coran.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Given that, the discussion item that we moved and the folks on the phone, I'm hoping that we can have the audit presentation first. Now at the top of the, I think that I've heard the folks, I think they're here with us, so.
Yes, Madam Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes. Please state your name for the record, and then we're here also with we have documentation, and I think there's a presentation as well, but we did receive some other documentation, so go ahead.
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you. So I do not have a PowerPoint, but what I have is the outline that it sounds like you have in front of you that I'm going to go through to go over all the required communication that auditors are to make at this stage of the audit. And I'm sorry, my name is Chris Garner, and I am the audit partner from Patillo, Brown, and Hill, in charge of the city and all the component units audit. So with that, I'll just go ahead and get started on the agenda. If anybody has any questions as we're going through it, please stop me, and I'll do the best that I can to answer any questions that come up. So the first thing that we have on what we're supposed to talk about is the timing. And so planning has already been going on remotely in the month of July, and will continue. We're actually going to be on site next week to continue the planning phase of the audit of the city and all the component units. So that is, again, started earlier this month, and we should hopefully wrap that up early part of August. What the planning phase talks or entails is, one of the first things we do is we look at your internal controls. We document what the internal controls are, and then we actually test your internal controls. And specifically with your organization, we do a separate test of your cash receipts. We've done that the last couple of years, and so specifically that with the Animal Services Center, we will test your cash receipts that are being handled through your through your organization. Other part that we're doing during this phase is the state auditor compliance testing. And so the state auditor has a list of 13, 15 items, things such as if you had to go out to procurement, use of credit cards, travel and per diem. So there's a whole list of items that the state auditor expands and requires auditors in the state of New Mexico to test. And so that is going on right now also. And then the last bullet point is once we look at your internal controls, we test them. We look at the compliance testing that for the state auditors complete. Then we do what we call a risk assessment and also fraud inquiries. And so what happens is with those fraud inquiries, we will talk to management and to others just to get some insight of any concerns that people might have, and we'll actually talk a little bit more about that towards the end of the presentation. But we take all that information, we determine if we have exceptions with our internal control testing, and then we take our risk assessment and we go through and determine what is our audit plan, what are the areas that we're going to test, and come up with our final audit plan. And that's where we're at right now. We're in the process of completing those so that we can get the risk assessment done, so that we can get field work, which we have scheduled for October and November timeframe, with planning and submitting the audits. All audits have to be submitted by December 1st to the New Mexico State Auditor so that the city can submit their financial statements to GFOA for the annual award in financial excellence. And so that is the timing, the planned timing of the audit at this point, and we're still in the planning phase. The audit standards require that we talk about our responsibilities and also your responsibilities. And so I'll start out with ours. In New Mexico, we are required to do an audit under regular U.S. auditing standards, and then we also have government auditing standards that we have to follow. So the state audit rule makes sure that we follow government auditing standards, which really requires us to look at your internal controls a little bit more, expand the testing than what regular auditing standards do. And so what our responsibilities are to audit your numbers that are presented to us to make sure that they're what we call materially correct. Meaning we don't look at every transaction. We do samples. We also look at the internal controls. And so we're not looking at every transaction. And so there could be errors in those numbers, but those errors are not going to be big enough to change the opinion of the readers of the financial statement. So when we take our audit and you give it to a banker and they're analyzing your financial status, those errors would not change the banker's opinion of the organization. And so that's what our responsibilities are to test. And so again, with the yellow book or the government auditing standards, we actually have to take samples and test internal controls. That is not required under regular auditing standards. And so, again, the New Mexico State Audit Rule requires that we look at additional transactions and actually test internal controls. And so that's what our responsibilities are. Your responsibilities are to make sure that you have a trial balance and that trial balance is in accordance with the standards that we have to follow, generally accepted accounting principles, or GAAP, more commonly referred to, and to make sure that you are performing all management functions and that you're making all decisions for the internal control processes and that you're following those processes. So management is responsible for giving us numbers that do comply with GAAP, and so then we go through and we audit those numbers. Under scope, we have 6 different entities that are a part of our audit, of which Animal Service Center of Mesilla Valley is one of the 6. And so we will issue a separate financial statement for yours, but you are also included in the city's financial statements. So there are 6 different entities that are going to be incorporated when we go through our audit. The last section is other discussions, and this is, during the risk assessment and fraud inquiries up above, as I mentioned, this is where that comes into play. And so, if this probably isn't the right forum for some of these discussions to happen, So if you need to get a hold of us, please do. You can contact either Josie or Bernice. Either of them can give you our cell phone number. So as we go through these last 5 bullet points, if there's something that you would like to discuss with us, please reach out. Because again, we do take it into consideration, and it does affect our audit plan, and it is a very important process of the audit. So as that first bullet point talks about with the New Mexico State audit rule, as we go through the audit and we have potential exceptions or potential findings, all of that, if it is discussed with you at any point, needs to remain confidential. None of those issues can be talked about until the audit has been officially released by the New Mexico State Auditor. And because the city does go after the GFOA award, that typically should be done by the end of the year. So by the end of December, your audit should be released, and then that information can be discussed, but not until then. So the last 4 bullet points are really where we're seeking information. If you have some concerns or information you need to pass along, please call us. But one of the first things we need to make sure that we have an understanding of is related party transactions. And if you know of any related parties where we're doing business with potentially a board member or somebody, please let us know so that we can look at those transactions. If anybody's aware of any fraud or has any concerns of fraud, again, please let us know what those concerns would be, so that if we do need to do special procedures or look at something a little bit differently, that we do take that into consideration. We need to be made aware of any special audits that occurred, if any, and what the results of those audits are, so that, again, we can incorporate that into our audit plan. And then just any general concerns. If there's a certain type of transaction that folks have a concern about, please let us know. I know in the past, all the different boards and also City Council has done a really good job in bringing up items and having us look at that. And so, again, that is a very important part of it. So if there's any type of transaction that causes you some concern, please let us know and give us a call so that we can talk about that. That is all the required communication that I have to do. So, Madam Chair, I will open to any questions.
Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate that. I am looking for questions from the board, but I do have a quick question that's not related specifically to this. It's just a general question, but I assume that because the Animal Services Center expansion was part of the GeoBond process, I assume that you all have a separate process, or our GeoBonds are audited in a different kind of way, but it's sort of within the realm of things that I think might be part of this. Or can you talk about how that process might be part of this?
Okay, so yes, we will look at those GEO bonds as we go through the audit. We will both look at it when we're doing the city's audit and your specific audit. So we will have to include in your financial statements the information related to the GEO bonds. So there will be a new footnote that will be in your financial statements this year. With new debt, one of the things we will do is get all of the bond documentation, make sure if there is covenants, that you are meeting those covenants. And so there will be testing that goes along with those GEO bonds as we complete your audit.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that it was part of this, or if it wasn't, where it might appear. So thank you very much for letting us know. Are there any other questions from the board? Seeing none. Thank you very much, Chris. We appreciate your joining us here today, and we look forward to hearing and seeing the final products of your work. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Have a good day.
You too. Okay, moving on to what appears on your agenda as item 5, which is now, I don't know, item 5.5-ish. Reports and presentations. We don't have a member of CF of the Coalition for Pets and People here with us this week, so we don't have a CFPP presentation. So we'll start off with city and county ACOs. So please, you guys can duke it out, whoever wants to go first. County ACOs first, yeah. No, sorry, no violence. I'm not promoting. using your words. Thank you. I know.
Good morning, board members and chair. I am Brian Halsey. I'm the caseworker for Doña County Animal Control. I'll be presenting the June 2022 monthly report. For our reported stray animals, we had 256 reported stray animals. Out of those, we had 176 stray animals picked up. We picked up 78 stray cats and 98 stray dogs. We had 14 sick or injured animals, and it was split evenly this month, 7 cats and 7 dogs. And this month in June, we had 3 owner surrender animals, and all 3 of them were dogs. This is our reported stray animal calls for the 4-year comparison. This is our 4-year field return to owner comparison chart. And for this month, we had, for the June, we had 13. Additional animals that we had picked up, again, we had no owner-surrendered cats. We had 3 owner-surrendered dogs. We had the 14 injured animals. We had no welfare hold animals. No neglect, abuse, or cruelty cases. We had 4 animal service center quarantines. We had 5 home quarantines. We had no cases that pertain to our court hold quarantine process. We currently have 7 animals being held in our court hold facility, and they are just awaiting for petitions and for cases to go through the court system. And we had 0 rabies submissions. These are our districts, just for anybody that needs to see them. So divided through each district, we picked up 1 cat and 2 dogs in District 1, which was 3 altogether. In District 2, we had 18 cats and 12 dogs. The total was 30. In District 3, we had 14 cats and 25 dogs for a total of 39. In District 4, we had 11 cats and 29 dogs for 40. District 5, we had 8 cats and 9 dogs for a total of 17. In District 6, we had 6 cats and 6 dogs for 12. And District 7, we had 20 cats and 15 dogs for a total of 35. Just a note for everybody on the board, I did notice going through the stats for June, a lot more people were starting to trap cats in District 7, and that's why it's a little higher than what it normally is. This is a stray cat picked up by district. As you can see in District 7, again, it's going to be a little higher because we had new people starting to trap cats. This is our stray dogs per district. And our reasons for owner release, we had 3 vicious or livestock attacks. So 1 had bit a child, so the owner released the dog for biting the child because they had other kids in the household. And then we had 2 that were accused of attacking livestock. Something to add extra for our report for June, we ended up getting our numbers for our Spay and Neuter Action Program contract that we have for annually. So these are the numbers that came out of that. We, for a total of cats spayed, they were able to get 140 cats spayed, 89 cats neutered. A total of the cat spay and neuter program, they got 229. For dogs, they spayed 284. For the neuter, they had 174, and that total came out to 458 for dogs spayed and neutered. So the total came out to 687 for all cats and dogs that they were able to get for spay and neuter. For cat rabies vaccinations, they were able to get 117. The cat microchips were 97. The total cat rabies vaccinations and microchip ended up to being 214. The dog rabies vaccinations came out to 228. The dog microchip was 170. The total dog rabies vaccinations and microchip came out to 398. The total cat and dog rabies vaccinations ended up to be 345. Total cat and dog microchips was 267. And total cat and dog rabies microchips came out to 612. And that's the end of the report. It's time for questions.
Thank you very much, Brian. Are there any questions from members of the board? Seeing none, thank you. Thank you again. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Members of the board, my name is Gino Jimenez. I'm the Animal Control Supervisor for the City of Las Cruces, and I will present to you our June 22 numbers. Excuse me. So for the month of June 2022, we responded to 454 stray calls. Of those, 203 were GOA, meaning the officer did not have any contact with that animal. We were able to apprehend a total of 251. 205 of those were impounded at the Animal Service Center, of those being 109 dogs and 96 cats. We were successful in field RTOing 46 animals back to their owners, and we, excuse me, we were unsuccessful in field RTOing 10. And of those were animals that had some sort of identification. However, we weren't able to return those back to the owner. So that gave us a total of 56 identifiable animals. So here is our graph for the 3-year stray comparison. Again, 454 for last month gives us a total of 2,748 for the year. Kind of keeps us right there within our trend, within our average. Next is our 3-year field RTO comparison. Again, 46 for the month, giving us a total of 240 for the year. I was excited about last month's number, trying to get to that 64 again. We strive to meet that number. However, we only do it probably once or twice a year. Next is a graph for our community cat program. Again, excuse me, this is a new program, so those numbers are going to wave up and down. So last month we responded to 32 cats and trap calls. Of those were 7 that were already identified as community cats. So those cats were released out in the area where they were captured. And next is our reasons for owner releasing of animals. 5 for aggression, 5 dogs for aggression. 1 killed another family pet, and 1 bit a child in the household. 5 cats were RTO owner released. The owner was unable to care for them any longer. 2 were the dogs were elderly, and the owner relinquished them. 1 was for a dog that the owner was unable to care for any longer. And then finally, 1 was a injured dog, and the owner could not provide veterinary care. They were also in a wheelchair. And this slide shows the reasons that we were unable to field RTO those 10. 7, the phone, there was no contact made by phone or at the resident with the registered owner. And actually 1 microchip came back to an address in California. And finally, 3, the microchips were not updated, meaning that the microchip came back. However, there was no information as to who the owner was or a phone number in order to get in touch with them. And that is the end of my presentation. I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions from members of the board? Thank you. Seeing none. Thank you, Gino. I appreciate it.
Board Member Sanchez you were going to.
No, Madam Chair.
Please, board member.
No, it's interesting to see. It's not so much, it was just more of a comment. I think looking at the data, it's always interesting to see that in particular, the reported strays, when you go back and look between 2020 and 2021, it's just an interesting, some of the trends that I see are interesting just because, you know, we 2020, we were in the pandemic, so obviously that's low, that makes sense. And then we had the, that uptick in 2021. So it's interesting that, you know, we've, for all of this year, this calendar year, we've really kind of leveled out right then. So that, oh God.
She fell.
Yeah, we'll come down and help.
Mr. Enriquez, we might need EMTs, and she fell. The fire department, someone's on there.
Are you okay, Ms. Chavez?
Are you okay? Okay.
Oh, you
Glad
scared
you're
us.
okay.
So it's been nice to see like it's leveled out, but and I think the other comments, I think when we start looking at those that you're unable to field RTO, I think when you're talking, especially with the microchips, I think it takes me back to a conversation we had on, I can't remember if it was earlier this year or even last year, on how we might be able to get owners to update that information because, you know, I know I made the comment when I moved, the last thing on my mind was I need to update the chip information for my cats. And, you know, I think within the first few months, one of my cats ran away and we weren't able to find him. So, you know, like I said, it's just one of those things that I think if there was any way that we could, and I don't know the answer yet, but I think that's one of those things that if we could remind people that they need to update that microchip information so that way, in cases like this, we can get their pet back to them. So, like I said, so that was really just the comments. It's just the things that those are the two items that Brett kind of tied in. But it just, as we were going through, it reminded me of that conversation, particularly with microchip updating.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Gino.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Board Member Sanchez. Any other questions or comments from the board? Hearing none. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you again. Next up, we'll hear the Ascmv shelter statistics.
I want Gino to know if he ever needs anybody to volunteer to go to California to drop a cat off, I'd be more than happy to volunteer for that. Sounds like fun. Good morning, board. My name is Clint Thacker, Executive Director of the Animal Service Center, Mesilla Valley, and I gotta say, it is good to be back. I was looking back, and it's been since March, I think was the last time I presented to you due to surgeries and also COVID at my house, and then we had May that was canceled. I appreciate being able to be here and to talk to you. I would also like to give a big thank you to Bernice Navarro, our operations director. She gathers all this information and even compiles the report for me and writes the presentation. So I thank her very much for that. I also thank the individuals that work with her to get the information. And I don't know if you know this, but there's a lot of different arms there at the center that do aid in gathering these numbers up. So thank you very much to everybody who puts forth effort to get these reports together. So our current population as of yesterday at the center is 511, and you see the comparison there between the years. This is our intake, 437 dogs in the month of June and 377 cats came in for a total of 827. That's the highest we've had in the last 3 years there at the center. I'm getting really worried about the intake numbers. They seem to be going up to the pre-pandemic amount. As we continue to look through the summer, it could just be that it's a really high month, and as you see from Gino's calls, that it was right in the middle there of his call volume. That was call volume, and this is intake volume, so a little bit different, but I believe there is an uptick happening in our intake amount. Our returns are 6 total. We had 5 dogs, 1 cat, mostly health issues and lifestyle changes and a behavior problem for the cat. So people know, and what we do when somebody comes in, wants to surrender their animal, we always talk to them and find out why. And we're asking that question a lot with them. If it's health issues, we'll offer some veterinarian care that we can provide. If it is food, can't afford food, we can offer some food that we have or even refer them to a food bank for help. And then lifestyle changes, we're always there to help with some type of adjustment that they can do. So we're really trying our best. I know in our staff meeting yesterday, we celebrated that the front staff diverted over 200 animals coming into the center using this process. So it is successful, and we do want to give some people some options for that. Oh, there you go, diverted intakes, 230 was. And so what this is diverting animals coming into the center for various reasons. It could be that they may have found an animal and we scan it, has a microchip, and we contact the owners and they just exchange there in the front of our building, or the person may take it there, or somebody may call and for owner surrender and say, I can't afford food, and we can refer them somewhere where they can get some food, or we can give them some. So 230 were diverted out of that total. So it could have been over 1,000 animals if it wasn't for our great staff, my coworkers, they're working hard. This is our outcomes, 18.7% adoptions, 155. Again, that's the highest there we've had in quite a long time. Reclaims were down a little bit, 73, it's 8.8% of the total. Rescues, 21.4%. Community cats, 13.5%. Euthanasia was at 23.3%. And that's high because if you remember, in June, we were battling our distemper issue that we had. I'm glad to report that we are, through our planning that we did and through our aggressive treatment schedules and also testing, that we were able to only have to euthanize a very small number. That number could be a lot more if we didn't act the way that we did. So kudos to the medical department and Dr. Haddon for tackling the distemper issue. That leaves our live release rate at 72.8%. And that means a live release rate is the number of animals that left the center alive. So in June, out of all of our intake that we had, it's 72.8% left the center alive. Our goal is 90%, and we have hit that sometimes, and we continue to reach for 90%. 90% qualifies you as no kill, is what they call. These are our transfers that took place in June. Again, all 177 of them. Special thank you to our local rescues that work so hard to get these animals out. They take them into their services from us, and we're able to move those animals out. Some big ones there you see, Action Program for Animals, Cherished Canine, those are all local. Enchanted Pass, Animal Rescue was a good one for our cats, and so was Front Range Freedom Rescue was a good one as well. We just thank everybody that we work with that continues to take animals from us. Here's our euthanasia reasons, as we were talking about space. So sometimes it gets confusing. Not sometimes, it does get confusing the way that we do our euthanasia. And we report this on our daily Facebook charts as well. So you'll see that the first one is medical for space, for dogs and cats. Now, it sounds like we euthanized an animal just for space, and it's not exactly right. What it is when we get to the point where we do need to make some euthanasia decisions, we always look at our medicals, ones that are injured, sick, aren't responding, and so we euthanize those first. Now, the space is on there because that's the reason why we're looking at them, but the reason is for the medical. Because we need to make space, so let's go to the medical. The ones that you see for like the third one for medical general or medical respiratory signs, those are specifically for that reason. We looked at them and said, they're not doing good, it's better for them to be euthanized. And the other one is we're out of space, we need to make some room, so we look at our medicals first. And you can see dogs, medical parvo. A lot of puppies came through already having parvo in our center. The hard thing with parvo is that it takes up to 7 to 10 days to show clinical signs of parvo, but they can still be passing it, but in those 7 to 10 days when they have it. So we have changed a lot of our intake procedures. Our staff is wearing the personal protection equipment under PPE to shield them and also other animals. We had a great staff meeting yesterday where we talked about barriers between us and the animal and always carrying those and carrying animals with those barriers attached and so on. Total surgeries, 397 that we did in June of 2022. This is an incredibly high number when you consider we only had, I believe, 4 days of contracted veterinarians. All the rest was done by our medical director, Dr. Haddon. So 397. So she probably did around 300 surgeries in the month of June. And we're so appreciative of her and her hard work. Unfortunately, when it comes to that, that means that she's spending more time in surgery than other times in the center of treating or watching and doing the things that she really needs to do. So kudos to our staff that stepped up and helped her identify those issues, and also for her staff that stepped up and helped her as well. Year to date, just for 2022, as you see there, over 2,000 surgeries being performed. So that is incredible. Visitors for the center is the highest we've ever had in 2022 at 1,556. This is, of course, because we opened up the center so people can, in a roundabout way, get to our large dogs so they can just come in and see. We are excited to have the new way that we're doing walkthroughs, whereas before they had to have somebody accompany them as they walk through, and we've really opened things up so people can just come in and walk. I believe it's also helped with the staff as well because they're not having to not waste time, but be with an individual while something else could be done. So it frees them up as well. So this is a slide that I wanted to show. We're still doing adoptions on a volunteer basis. What that means is if somebody calls in and says, I would like to see this dog named Fluffy. So we said, would you like to come and visit, or do you like to make an appointment? They'll like to make an appointment. So 108 people made appointments in the month of June. The 102, so 94%, kept them, and that resulted in a 60% rate of finalizing adoptions. So remember that 60% finalized rate. Now we look at walk-ins. So we had, of that walk-ins in June, we had 268 groups of people come in, and that resulted in only 19% of adoptions, of people just walking in. So you see why we continue to stress appointments, because appointments is really the approach, a beeline approach of targeting or having individuals who are interested versus having individuals that are just walking through and looking. So that's why we continue to do both. This is our volunteer team. An amazing 1,270 hours was donated to us in the month of June. That's because we've partnered with Euthanasia County, and they have the intern program, where we've had a lot of high school kids that are entering their senior or junior years, and they come in and volunteer with us. They do a lot of great work, everything from preparing adoption bags to working in our medical area to surgeries to writing on blackboards. I mean, or on whiteboards. We have them do everything, and we love having them, and so thankful for being able to be part of that program at Euthanasia County. We have 70 dog walking teams, 23 cat care teams. Cat care teams are amazing. They come in and they help clean cats. And that's so beneficial to the employee that's there. We have a total number of 337 volunteers in our program. Website views is right in there in the normal of 36,000, almost 37,000 hits. Again, this is, and I say this every time, but for those who are just watching, this is actually a view. So if somebody views a dog, that's one view, and then they go back a page, that's another view, and then they click on another dog, that's a view. So we had 36,000 views on there. Now, total Facebook views, these are actually people that are coming to the Facebook page, so almost 3,500 views, the highest we've ever had. It contribute that a lot to our programs that we're doing, our volunteer basis that we're doing in June of 2022 as well. And then our dog and cat of the week is Rain and Orange Throat. We love having these guys. A lot of times they are foster-based or also they're at the center, so just call us, make an appointment, and they're available for adoption. I'll entertain any questions you may have.
Questions from the board? Board Member Flores, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And then Board Member.
And thank you, Mr., what's your name? No.
Thacker. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Thacker, for your thorough presentation. So I do have a question about the wonderful interns you have. How much longer will you have?
The number almost split in half. I think we had around 14, so the number split in half when school started, but there's still some that are, it might be in an accelerated program. So I think we have around probably about 5 or 6 that are still around the center. But if you need an exact number, I can for sure get that for you.
Well, I was just wondering, those total hours were over 1,000.
They're there all day.
They're there
Yeah.
all there, and so those numbers will go down. All that infrastructure, all their help. Once they all go back to school, or will the internship program be continuing throughout the school year? Maybe weekends and stuff like that, Mr. Macias? Yes?
Yeah, just because somebody's in the intern program doesn't mean they can't come volunteer on a normal basis. They're more than welcome to come and volunteer whenever they're like. But Mr. Macias, any comments on the intern program? Go ahead.
Madam Chair, with your permission, if I could supplement.
Please, thank you.
First of all, let me take the opportunity to thank Mr. Thacker and the Animal Services Center, but let me take the opportunity to thank the city, who took on a substantial number of these summer interns. The county was able to receive a $2.7 million grant from the Public Education Department. We onboarded 850 high school students, juniors and seniors, as county employees, and they were placed in 300 different sites: the Animal Services Center, the city, the county, but nonprofit organizations, businesses. So they were all over this county. There are close to 500 alone here from the Las Cruces schools, public schools and charter schools. They were paid $13 an hour. They could work up to 200 hours over a 6 to 8 week period. Part of what we're also doing in response to Councillor Flores' question is working with the schools that do, during the course of the regular school year, have programs that place students in different business or governmental setting. So we are working with them to transition as many as possible. We are working with the Las Cruces Public Schools. The intent was to give them a placement during the summer, but then work a situation out where if they wanted to continue to do this and they had the time during the school year, they would just stay in their placements. So I'm hoping that some of the students that have gone over to the Animal Services Center can continue, or that the school districts are able to shift based on continuing demand and continuing interest from the placement that was originally identified.
That's excellent. Thank you. We even had one in our office, actually.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah,
Yes,
it was
thank
great.
you so much.
No, thank you. Thank you guys for coordinating it. I'm not sure if that answers some of your questions, Board Member Flores.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, thank you, Mr. Macias. So they can continue with internship funds, or?
It isn't the same base of funds. The school uses its funding mechanisms to support students in kind of what would have been clinical settings. As you remember from law school, you do a internship, they call it a clinic.
Right.
And so that program is already institutionalized within the school districts. They do it every year.
Wonderful.
So here it's just a handoff. It's a warm handoff for those students that want to continue. And I believe that they are compensated. I don't know if they're compensated at the level that the summer program. Last year or the year before, it was $10.50. We were able to talk them into letting us pay the students $13 an hour. And so it attracted a lot of students. So the short answer is yes, there's the opportunity to continue with those students at the Animal Services Center, and there's probably an opportunity and I'll communicate it to the Las Cruces Public Schools, that there is a need for potentially even more students who would be interested in working at the Animal Services Center.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Macias, for the thorough explanation. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Thacker.
Board Member Gandara.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Clint. Slide 9 on the surgeries. Is there somewhere that makes a side-by-side comparison from year to year?
We can for sure get that for you, yes.
Yeah,
we have the years. If you go to it's on the website under annual reports. We do report that annually, so you can see the total numbers.
Yes, I remember that, but I don't remember what the number is from a
I
year
don't.
ago, as you don't, and you're in it every day, so it'd be helpful to put a year-to-year comparison, even a month-to-month would be helpful, I think, to us. And I'd also like to see what you're visioning, what you're forecasting month to month in terms of what you would like to see by the end of the year, and then increase by so many for the following year. I think those are important numbers as well. Yeah, I'm glad that you clarified the euthanasia rates, specifically, when you all see the Facebook posts about, we're running out of room and they're and then, the advocates are putting out certain things. It all gives us pause, very concerning, that you're just euthanizing animals because there's no room. And I'm saying, no. I heard just yesterday, at the salon, someone speaking to someone picking up a cat, trapping a cat, and they said we wanted to take it over there, and someone said that don't take it here, a staffer, because it'll end up euthanized. So I just want to make sure and be clear that when you're putting those out, that you're very informative about what that means, and we need to probably say it over and over and over again, but also ensuring that the staff isn't saying those things, because it's confusing people. I had to correct people. If you're not in the business, or because you don't sit on the board, a lot of people generally have that perception that we're just killing animals, that we're a no-kill, that we're not a no-kill facility. We don't want to kill animals. We want to be a no-kill facility, but we also need responsible pet ownership as well. And I keep saying that over and over again, and reminding folks that we have a lot of irresponsible pet owners. And when people want to point the finger, we should be pointing it to the irresponsible pet owners. And how do we move them from that space into being a responsible owner? Right?
Yeah, and the question, or the answer to that, would be education.
Yep.
And that's just one in the tool belt, is education, some enforcement, et cetera, for that.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing up the euthanasia issue. There was an article that ran several weeks ago that stated we euthanized 27 animals in 3 days for space. And like I said, that was not true. In fact, the article, we wrote a clarification to it and sent it to the editor, and they pulled the article. There was even somebody quoted in that article that doesn't even work for us, and they stated that they did work for us. So there was a lot of misinformation, but the damage had already been done, and it was a continual education process that we're still fighting just over that one article for that. I did another interview on Tuesday explaining the process of why we do state them that way of space and medical. It does sound confusing, but for statistics, it's what we need to do to keep that going. And also, we talked about in the news interview some ways that we can get animals and continue to move animals out of the center and have those live outcomes, we call them.
Absolutely.
So,
Thank you, Clint. I really appreciate you and staff and all the work. I know times are hard. I know y'all are working really hard, and then we get a number of animals, weekly, daily. I'm seeing the stats, and it gets overwhelming. So I just want to say that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Seeing none, thank you, Clint. And I think we'll be calling you back up shortly, but next we're on to the committee reports. The Finance Committee, Board Member Enriquez.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Board. So there was a meeting last week. I was not able to attend, but Liette Demouche ran the meeting in my absence, and they did discuss an item that will be brought later, the resolution, and either she'll be available for some comments or I can provide those. And right now we have Armando Lerma to give the financial report.
Please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Armando Lerma, accountant with the Finance Department, and I'll be presenting the financials unaudited financials for the period ending June 2022. I would also like the board to note that these financials are preliminary, as we're still going through our end of year and audit process. Okay, so we'll begin with the statement of net position. So for the period ending June, we had cash balance of $683,671, receivables of $108,018, which makes up our total assets of $791,689. And for our liabilities, we had $69,410. Our revenue collected in advance, $315,416, which leaves an unassigned fund balance of $406,819. Okay. Next, we have our change in net position. Total revenue for the period ending June is $3,694,032. Total expenditures, $3,409,333. With the transfer of $705,000 from earlier in the year, leaves us a net change of $420,301 reduction of fund balance. Okay. Next, we have the same numbers, but how they relate to budget. So this being the final month of the period of the year, our budget parameter is 100%. Total revenue came in at 96.1% of budget, and total expenditures at 88.7% of budget. Okay, next we have our line graph of revenues and expenditures by month for the year. We can see our revenues increased slightly from last month to $297,000 from $260,000, but also our expenditures also increased from $329,000 to $388,000. Okay. Next, we have our percentage of our total expenditures. So of our total expenditures of $3,409,333, 49% was salary, benefits 16.4%, temporary services 4%, repairs and maintenance 2%, services 17%, supplies 7%, insurance 2%, capital 2%, and other at 1%. Okay, that completes my presentations. I now stand for any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the board? Board Member Flores.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So as far as page 4, the transfers, what does that mean? Where does that money come from?
That was just a transfer from the general fund to a capital fund that I believe was discussed previous for shelter, furniture, fixtures, equipment.
I think Clint discussed that.
Correct.
So, and then the other, page 3, so the net change of $420,301, where does that go?
That is just a reduction of the fund balance.
So it just stays in the same fund?
Correct.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Lerma, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Board Member Flores. Any other questions from members of the board? Board Member Gandara, please.
Thank
Councilor,
you,
Board
Madam
Member
Chair.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Hello, Mr. Lerma. Welcome. Thank you for your presentation. You did awesome.
Thank you.
And slide 6. Total expenditures at $3 million. I like this very much. Are there any expenditures outstanding? Obviously, I think it's around 96%, but what is that total? And are we in line to?
So this is, the 96% was the revenues, I believe. Let me go back. Oops. So the 96% was the revenue, and the total expenditures was 88%. Those numbers are not final, and they are more likely to change. In both ways, you can still see more revenue and more expenses. So those numbers are not final at this moment.
But I guess what I'm asking is the expenditure piece. How much is out there? You know, right? Because people have made purchases, but it hasn't been invoiced yet, that kind of thing. Do you know what that total looks like?
I do not have that information. I can get it to you. I don't imagine it'd be...
It looks
I
like
hated for you to have to walk down here with your broken.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Josie Trevino, Comptroller. So the outstanding balances, if there were any, they would most likely be for June services.
Okay.
That were billed in July. And would be paid either in the end of July or August, and that amount would not exceed the 100%, which would be 3.8 budget, so it would not exceed the budget amount.
Okay, thank you, Josie, I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Lerma. Those are all my questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you both. Thank you. I appreciate it. Any other questions from the board? Okay, seeing none, thank you both. Thank you for your presentation. Next up, the Executive Committee. We did meet, Clint and I were in attendance on July 5th. We discussed the upcoming agenda for this and then planned for some future conversations about what kinds of sort of communications and information we would like to share with the board about future expansions of the Ascmv and strategies to staffing those and all of that. So that's my report. Clint, I don't know if you have any other things to add. Okay, thank you. Facilities, Board Member Gandara.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Unfortunately, we didn't meet. I didn't know if we did meet, and I'm just like, it's so early in the month. Let me go back and look. I'm sorry. Clint, can you help us?
I sure can.
Okay. You did meet.
Commissioner Ellens and I did meet.
Yay, thank you.
And able to discuss some
Thank
things.
you for covering, Commission.
Commissioner Ellens, would you like me to talk about some of the things we did, or did you have some input as well?
It was not a long meeting because there wasn't much to discuss, but The construction of the new facility is proceeding on schedule, and you expect substantial completion in December of this year.
That is correct. According to the new that came out about 3-4 weeks ago, the new completion is slotted for December. There is significant delay because of some of the door hardware that's going on there, but in full, we should be done by December. We did do a walkthrough yesterday. I did a live video on Facebook of that, if you're able to see that, and we talked about there's kennels in now for our intake area. We're excited about that. I talked to the contractor, and he said we're at a solid 78, possibly 80% completion.
Thank you. Any other facilities-related notes? No? Thank you both. That's the end of our reports and presentations. Next up, if you remember, we did move 6A to the beginning, so we're at 6B, as it appears on the agenda that you might have, the Ascmv feasibility study presentation. So I'll turn that over to you, Clint.
Thank you very much. Clint Thacker, Animal Service Center, Mesilla Valley. What we did is we teamed up with ASA Architects. They're the ones who designed the current or the new facility we have. And they did such a good job, and they have experience designing animal centers. What we did is we teamed up with them to talk about changing our existing center that we have now. We've always talked about changing it into a medical facility. Medical being animals that came in from ACOs and over the counter can be there, or animals that got sick from being at the center, or also doing sterilizations at the center as well. So they came up with this plan, again, the feasibility study, to change most of what the Ascmv looks like. This portion right here is not being touched, the gray part that you're seeing. So the new lobby, the admin area with the offices, vet techs, bathrooms, that will stay the same. What is being changed significantly is the kennels that here along the side. This is, like right now, this is our small breed kennel area, and this is some of our intake kennel areas. So they would be totally taken out, and then all the kennels will actually be removed and purchase new kennels for it, because right now they're in bad repair, and they only have that one drain that's in each kennel, and it's round, versus a trench drain that the kennels sit in the middle of, or the kennels, I guess they back up to the trench drain, and then you can spray the feces and waste right into it, and then it all goes down into the drain. So all dog kennels that you see here will have to be redone there. We changed to have the cat areas right here off of the front lobby. It's going to be housing feral cats, public cats, rescue cats, and in-house cats. That's all for staging for surgery that are going to be happening. We did not change this area here. This is the laundry area. Electrical, hot water, and then the 2 bathrooms that are there. But the laundry will stay there, everything. This is a new area. When I say new, I mean what's existing there will be taken out, not added on. So here is the actual surgical area we'll have, and then the prep, and they can prep up to 3 to 5 animals in this space. This up here currently is a kennel that goes all the way across. We'll be taking out those kennels and having some isolation rooms that we can treat animals individually or even in groups. So like Parvo is treatable. As long as we have an area where they can be and we can treat them individual, we do that. So we'll create those rooms. This is our x-ray. We currently do have an x-ray machine that's used all the time, and we have it, so that's a great addition. But so we make room for the x-ray. It's staying where it's at now. And then we do have a new addition for 2 surgical offices, one for the medical director and one for our veterinarian, that we hope to get any day now. The other add-on that we have is this area here is outside right now. It's not the green roof area that's out over here, but this is it's just surrounded by a fence, so we would close it in. for that. In addition, so here's the old, our current building. Here's that place that we would enclose and include in. This also includes the shelter offices that are right here. It'll be add-on. And then I would like to have a generator. Currently, right now, the Animal Service Center, if the power goes out, we're out. There's nothing there to help run. So we have a generator, and the scope is for it to run at 50% power for the entire center. So that's added in. And then this right here is also added into the feasibility study. So this is the new center, and this is just a large space that we left empty. It was included in the original design, and it's just a large area for gathering conferences, staff meetings, things like that. It's basically an open box, cement slab and slides and a roof. Unfortunately, because you're adding square footage, you have to also, per ordinance or codes, you have to add bathrooms. So the bathrooms will be provided, et cetera. But that is also part of the scope, is to add that large gathering place. This went through several different design phases. It's not just something they came together and presented to us and we said, okay. We met 5 or 6 times with ACA architects to get it down to this design. So kudos to them for helping us. So you're saying, that's really good, Clint, but what is this going to cost? And that is a great question. We're looking at, for these services right now, with how much it is, it's a $7.6 million project. This is broken down for you by construction costs at $5.4 million. We have some soft costs, including to be LEED certified, and also for furnitures furnitures and fixtures. The art requirement, that is gone up to 2%. By the time this goes up, it went from 1% to 2% of your total costs. By ordinance, so the state has to be for art. I know that was a little bit of a contentious with the new center as well, that some people felt like we should spend that on animals, but we were able to have a beautiful art piece that we're putting out as our main. It's gorgeous, I love it. But anyways, that's part of that as well. So soft costs would be almost $1 million, and then the full project cost with gross receipt tax and the contingency comes out to be the $7.6 million. This is information. I'm not going to request right now that we fund this. Obviously, this is something we would like to have as soon as we can for some changes that really need to happen. But I just want you to know there's a plan. We looked into this. This is the design we like to have. I will start having talks in the coming months with counselors and commissioners about possible funding options and just having on the radar. And also I know there's another GO bond coming up with those questions that we could look into as well. So just have it on your front brain lobal areas that this is the things that we're looking towards. And this will, of course, benefit the city and the county as well for those changes. So I can entertain any questions you might have. I probably won't have the answers to them, but I'll be more than happy to talk to you about them.
Board Member Flores, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you again, Clint, for your presentation. When you said that a veterinarian is coming soon, so you opened the door on that one. How soon is soon?
We have not had any bites again. We've changed.
So you mean you're praying for somebody?
Oh, I'm praying hard.
Okay, I'll get my rosary out.
Yeah, God is, I think, tired of hearing from me about it. That's for sure. It's a continual frustration all across the country. Like I said, I'm in a group of a lot of directors with the Best Friends Animal Society, and the program I was in for leadership certificate. Everybody's having problems. El Paso right now is in a huge issue because 2 of their vets left, and they don't have anybody in building right now. So they have to farm their sterilizations out, and it's causing major issues for them. We count our blessings every single day for having Dr. Haddon on staff. We're very thankful for her. And the things we're doing to battle it, we're going to be rewriting the job description. Right now, it's really heavy on, you're going to be standing there and doing surgery all day. And for a veterinarian, that doesn't sound quite appeasing. So we're going to be rewriting that. We also have to look at the salary a little bit. It taps out at 110, I believe, if I remember right, 110,000. And while that sounds good with anybody that can choose anywhere to live basically right now, that we need to increase that, I believe, just a little bit, something to get us up. We also need to better show some of the points that we'll be doing. For instance, we'll pay for your continuing education credits, we'll pay for your licensing, we'll pay for a lot of those bonuses and things, moving bonuses, allowances, things like that, that some of the places don't do. So it's just a matter of it looking appeasing and getting it in the right hands and showing. It's even to the point where I had somebody come and say their friend is going into vet school, and I said, well, in 5 years when they get out, do I have a place for them to work? So we're working on it.
Thank you, Clint. As insofar as housing goes, I know that housing is exorbitantly expensive, and houses, you can't find a house for less than $300,000 today. So what a lot of people are doing is buying outside of the city of Las Cruces. And our housing committee is working really hard to get affordable housing, not just housing the homeless, which is very important, but to have housing for people who are earning maybe $150,000 and can't buy a house. So $110,000 sounds like a very good salary, but in reality, it's very hard for someone to come out, you know, if someone's here and already has a housing, there's no issue there. So I hope that you're able to do that and maybe refer them to live in Vado or Mesquite and Anthony. I mean, I don't know what to do with that, but yes, that is a big issue. What? No, there's no housing here affordable for $110,000. I met people during the Go Bond issue, the Go Bond meetings, and that's where I gathered that information, people coming up to me over at DACC when it was held there. I mean, this one woman was almost in tears because she heard all these wonderful things about Las Cruces, and so the new housing that's going up is incredibly expensive. So, so root for Las Cruces, and let's pay our people what they deserve to get paid so they can buy a $300,000 house. So thank you. And then how long does it take for an animal to recover from Parvo?
A lot of it depends on the animal and when you catch it, but because if it's the Parvo attacks the intestines, and so they actually die of dehydration, not specifically because of Parvo. So it all depends on where you catch it and the amount of fluids and how well it reacts to it and catch it in time. But within a week or so, you'll see improvements of first clinical signs.
And then it's very highly contagious, right?
It's highly contagious before they show clinical signs, and then 5 to 6 days after they show clinical signs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the recovery rooms, would that be just for one Parvo-afflicted pet?
If I remember right, we would have some kennels in those areas, and we'll keep as few in there as possible or as is needed. But it's the way that we had to use the best that we could. Does that make sense? Of the area we had, and I feel like they did that. They did a good job of meeting space and requirements.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Thacker, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Board Member Canara.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Clint, thank you for this feasibility study. We've been working on it, I know, and waiting patiently for it. If you had to guess or prioritize and phase, each of these projects, what would it look like? Or each of, it's a large sum of money, $7 million, and they range from, different types of improvements. If I'm asking you to prioritize, what would that look like? Phase 1, 2, and 3?
Phase 1 would definitely be the kennels. The kennels are almost to the point of being useless right now with the way the drain system is and spreading diseases. We can't clean them properly the way that they're designed, or clean the way that we would like to, our medical director would like to. So kennels is definitely phase 1. We would knock everything out put the French drain, probably take out all the concrete so we can start over with fresh virgin concrete, put the trench in and have the new kennels come in. So that would definitely, because then we could use it from animals from the new center that are sick, could come over and get treatments and things there. And then the second phase would definitely be the surgical area. It would be this area right here. So this would be completed with the kennels, those changes, but this area would be our second phase. So we would be able to do surgeries in the manner that we need to, and then the last phase would be this back row here, and also the right here, and the generator as well would be the last phase.
Thank you, Clint. Very helpful. Do you have prices, totals for each of those phases? And if you don't, that would probably be helpful.
Yeah, I don't, but we
us.
can get those.
Yeah, that would be my recommendation. Clint, do you currently have a lobbyist?
No, what do you mean by a lobbyist?
Like someone who lobbies for us up at the legislature for different bills and capital outlay and those kinds of things?
I do not. Joanne Ferre has mentioned that several times, but the process of doing it, you have to have it done a year in advance, and her and I have talked about it, and this would be a perfect opportunity for it. We have the funds, or I'm sorry, we have the amounts that we need for specific things, and but she almost made it sound like you have to have everything in place and then go ask for the money for it, and that's been the challenge of meeting those deadlines for it.
Well, you have the feasibility study. I would recommend that you get a lobbyist and start advocating with our legislators for capital outlay funding. Much of it has to be shovel-ready, and you got to get to that point. So I know the city is starting to have conversations with our lobbyists. It'll certainly be on my list. As I advocate for certain priorities moving forward, but there's a lot of priorities that the city has, related to this. So, in terms of GeoBond, how should I put it?
Ship has sailed.
Ship has sailed. That's exactly the wording I was looking for. The ship has sailed. So that would be my recommendation. I think when I've recommended to other of our, groups that we share with the county, for instance, the South Central Solid Waste Authority, they've hired a lobbyist, and it's been fruitful, very beneficial. So that would be my recommendation, and as far as how to move forward with this. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Board Member Macias, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Let me just follow up to what Councillor Gondara was discussing. The thing is if there is something feasible now, you have to get it on a ICIP list, and that's going to have to be by the middle of August. Right. So I would suggest that rather than Mr. Thacker trying to find and pursue a lobbyist at this point, that maybe the city and the county could just add these priorities to the ICIP list that they're about to submit. I spent a little while in the legislature, so maybe I can have a little bit of a discussion about it. But all we're doing is competing among ourselves. So even if the Animal Services Center gets a lobbyist and pursues that funding, well, that's, in some ways, it's competing with what the city and the county are trying to pursue at the same time. So it makes a lot more organized approach to me is to make sure that the city and the county are having discussions about where animal services ranks in priorities for both the city and the county, and that we be advocating through probably what our already established lobbyists are. Because lobbyists don't necessarily come cheap. And so as Mr. Thacker has to struggle with his internal budget, that's what we're basically telling him, go hire somebody to go advocate for you in the legislature, but then we may be undermining some of your efforts by saying, no, there are other priorities that both the city and the county have. So I think that we have to merge that overall effort and coordinate that overall effort in terms of trying to, have greater success if we're pursuing state funding. And yes, there's going to be an abundance of state funding this year. I don't know how long it'll last, but it certainly is there this next year. So if there are projects that you've made some movement on, then you should be providing, as far as I'm concerned, that list to both the city and the county to see about adding it to the ICIP that we're about to submit.
2 questions, sir, if I could. First is, who is a representative from the county that I would talk to about the ICIP list, and what does ICIP stand for?
Infrastructure Capital Improvement Plan. And it's basically the mechanism that the legislature uses, or excuse me, the Department of Finance and Administration. That's where the list first goes so that they can have an understanding of what the different municipalities and counties and universities. So everybody is competing for those same dollars. Everybody is competing for the same dollars. And you're competing really against one another in terms of what is the greatest priorities and what has the greatest likelihood of gaining funding and support from local legislators. Okay. So again, the concern that I have with you, you'd be meeting with individual legislators and then they'd ask you, well, where does this priority rank with the priorities of the city and the county? And you know, and that puts you in a very difficult position because you're going to have to say, I don't know. Unless we have that discussion and determine if there is a project that needs funding, a capital improvement, a building, the expansion of some facility. So in order to have that kind of discussion, you have to know, where do you stand? Because your entity is basically a city-county operation.
Yes.
So you can talk to me directly, or Michelle Blackwell basically handles our list. The County Commission recently adopted its ICIP list that will be submitted, but there's certainly still the opportunity to modify it.
Thank you very much, sir. And Mr. Enriquez, who in the city do I talk to about this?
Yes, I can help you with that.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, Board Members Macias and Enriquez. Board Member Gandara, did you have one other thing you wanted to?
I do. I appreciate the feedback from, I call him Judge Macias. We've known each other many, many years, so you know I'm very coordinated and collaborative, and I'm not insisting that we compete for these dollars. I think it's important to get on the ICIP list. It's very important. But I also know that you're getting larger and larger, and not only are we talking about capital outlay projects, but there are laws on the books currently, Clint, as it relates to animals that we've had conversations about that need some attention to, and that also is what a lobbyist does. And so I would recommend that still strongly, coordinate your efforts with the county and city. I certainly will have a conversation with Larry Horan, our lobbyist, and EFO, as that appointment is coming up soon in the next week or two. I think I've seen it on my calendar. So for me, I'm very visionary, and I'm forecasting for you, and as you should, right down the line, years in advance, what it is that you're kind of moving for. And I mean, you're going to have a pretty large operation now that you have the new center, and we have a lot of needs. So that's all I will say about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Gandara. And Board Member Macias, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And again, certainly not to have a difference of opinion, because it is not. Everything that Councillor Gandara is saying is absolutely correct in terms of where you're going. But if you're needing to move quickly related to this session, then let me make a couple of points. One, no lobbyist, because I know almost all of them, no lobbyist knows as much about animals and the care and the institutional structure that is needed to support these efforts better than you. No lobbyist will know more. And the opportunity is that there are only legislators from this county that are going to be willing to support a capital improvement project for you. So does it make any sense to talk to any legislator from Santa Fe or Bernalillo County? I'm sorry, they're going to tell you they have their own needs in their respective areas. So you have basically, I think it's 12 legislators in this community that you need to get over to your operation. It has to be beyond Representative Ferrari to be supportive. You need everyone to know what you're doing because your institution services this entire county. It affects everyone. Your projects would be what would be considered county-wide projects that every legislator should know about and be interested in supporting. So I would encourage you now, begin to make sure they're coming in to your facility, make sure they're seeing what you're having to deal with. You talk to them about your needs. That is the most effective lobbying tool that there is.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board? All right, seeing none, thank you for this update. In terms of what the possibilities are, and I think as Board Member Gandra mentioned, having phases in mind, the big ask and then the smaller asks, I think makes it a lot easier in those conversations as well. All right, next up we have, our next agenda item is Resolution 2022-08, Budget Adjustments and Approval of Ascmv positions. So, Clint, please.
Thank you very much. Again, Clint Thacker, Animal Service Center, Lucia Valley Executive Director, talking to you today about Resolution 22-08. Now, there are three main items in this resolution that we grouped together for ease. First is we have some money coming in from Doña Ana County. They've increased their funding by $300,000. So that is the resolution to accept that. We're also adjusting the fiscal year 23 budget in the amount of $136,475. This is for purchasing of, or it's additional funds to purchase the fixtures, furniture, and equipment, access control, security, and kennels for the new building. We previously did that $705, but because of increase in costs, we had to come back and ask for more. So I'm asking for permission to access the fund balance in the resolution and adjusting the balance for the 136. And then the bottom one has been worked out with the worked closely with the executive committee and with the city and myself. It's authorizing 7 new full-time positions, 3 office assistants, 3 animal caregivers. Those 6 positions are for the new center that's going to be coming online in December. And when I look at that and say, well, December, we can do that later, it takes roughly 2 or 3 months to, at least a month, to get somebody or to get these announcements out and to get some people hired. So we're already looking at September, October time, and then some time to train. So we're right on the cusp of needing those to get in as soon as possible. And then also the TNR coordinator that goes along with the city's TNR coordination or TNR program. That's been discussed several times with the city at their city councilor meetings. There is no extra funding at this time requested for the full-time positions. The plan is that we reassess 6 months into our budget, and we can look and see how much money is needed to supply these, because with, as you saw in our fund balance, turning back quite a bit of money, that the majority of that money that was turned back was from personnel. So we feel like there might be some funds there just to reassess at our 6-month mark and have promises from the city to assist or help with funding if needed. So your board options are, of course, there are yes to approve, no to deny, amend, or table.
Thank you, Clint. I would entertain a motion on
So moved.
action item.
Second,
Member Flores,
Gandara.
seconded by Board Member Gandara. Any discussion, please, or questions? Board Member Sanchez, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What is and I know you're saying you're not requesting any funds for the new positions at this time, but what is the anticipated budget for those positions? And the reason I ask is I think while I understand the strategy to wait and look at the mid-year and reevaluate at that point, my concern is that then you may have hired these people. You're now then forcing either the county or the city to then have to provide additional funds because we're at that point. So I'm just trying to understand, what is that anticipated amount that you're looking at for those 7 positions for annually? Including, I don't know if that's been done in terms of what the costs are, what the salaries, benefits, and so on. What is that total cost for the budget?
So just to recap, what you're asking is what is the total amount for those positions? At the current time, I know it's been told to me, and I know I have it on my computer, but I can't remember the total amount because it also entails benefits and everything. I know their salary is around $14 an hour for the first year and then $15 after that. But again, I can get that number for you for sure, but off the top of my head, I don't have that.
And that is important as part of this, but I think this was also, some of these are also reclassifications. Is that
No, these are all new
These are all new?
positions.
Okay. So that would be an important detail to have, and it looks like someone's coming up to help answer that question.
Hi.
Please.
Hi, Rocio Gamboa, Budget Analyst. I ran an estimate. I'm not sure how much the TNR coordinator is going to be paid since it's a new position, but I just put it at $60,000. So we're looking at an average of about $350,000, including benefits, for all 7 positions.
Which aligns with the shift in
Which aligns what?
with the shift in the county support budget. So, go ahead, Board Member Sanchez. Were you going to say something?
No, I was going to say that would align with recurring funds from the county, or closely to it. I think the only thing would be that the other budget adjustment that was requested for equipment, which is at $136,000. But I appreciate the ball. At least it gets me a ballpark what we're looking at. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Other questions from the board? Board Member Macias, I'm not sure if your light is on for, okay. No?
It's okay.
Thank you. Board Member Gandara, please.
Thank you, Chair Cran. Thank you, Clint, for the presentation. Slide 2, the TNR coordinator, what is the salary for that?
We estimated around $50,000 to $55,000.
And where in the budget will we find the programming for the TNR program? What does that consist of?
Well, so you're asking, in my current budget, is there a TNR program fund?
Yeah. I mean, you're going to pay for that. What are they going to do? And how are you going to interface with the animal control and assist in the TNRs that need to occur?
So the TNR coordinator the job description will outline what is their responsibility. For the most part, it's going to be a major education role for going out and educating individuals. So in other words, mediate with individuals that have CAP problems. They're to work closely with or coordinate with the city and county animal control officers on hot spots and major areas that need to have that education in place. Also scheduling anything that needs to be placed in the future, such as events. It'll be a major role in the program, but I think education is going to be at the forefront, because if word doesn't get out and educate those that either 1, love feral cats, or 2, don't like feral cats, or I should say community cats, then the program's just wavering. And that's kind of where we're at now, is cats are coming in and cats are going out, but there's nothing in the process to educate, and that's the main concern.
Clint, when you say educate, are you also providing tools to the public that help mitigate some of the issues that feral cats are causing in the community?
It has always been part of the Ascmv to have some of those on hand to mitigate. However, that's a discussion that needs to occur with the city and also the county. Is this something where I'm going to be using our funds to purchase deterrents, or is this something that animal control is going to be, because right now animal control has deterrents? I can see this as, if it truly can be set up as a partnership or a coordination, that our TNR coordinator doesn't have to go out everywhere. The animal control can help out and educate some areas and hand out. Of course, that all depends on how many officers they have, and it depends on their call level and also the time of year. But the main answer to the question is if we can get the grants and things that we've been told to go after by, like Best Friends has said that they will purchase the deterrents for us and help us out. We have Maddie's Fund that's also been a big increase for us, or a big push to get a program like this out. Then yes, we will have those deterrents out to give to individuals.
Okay. The other thing is, it requires neutering, right? Surgeries and stuff. And so, like, are you prepared for the numbers that are going to come in with this coordinator? And are you forecasting what that might look like?
To be honest, we have not forecasted what it would look like with this role in place. What we have forecasted is we're already doing hotspot sterilizations,
yes.
Incorporating those into our weekly sterilization goals. We also accepted a large grant from Petco, which we're going to be doing a celebration today, $50,000, and that came before you earlier. To accept that grant. So that will be utilized to basically farm out these sterilizations to other vets that are in the area. One specific vet is working with us and going to include 20 surgeries a week. So that will help us out a lot on that. Yeah, the coordinator is a position that we've all been waiting for some time to get in place.
Yes, yes. All right, thank you. Thank you, Clint. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And, go ahead. I will defer to Board Member Enriquez. I was just going to follow up, but I think you'll say the same thing probably.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I was just going to add that the city did approve the policy, but also with that policy, there was also with the subcommittee that put a lot of hours and effort into creating what we're going to place as a handbook, and that handbook will have a lot of the operations and duties from all parties involved, and not only the coordinator will do education, but outreach and get volunteers involved with this program as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I was going to say something similar, but I would anticipate that, so just as a matter of process and clarity, I would anticipate that there will be future budget adjustments to support this program that will increase the overall budget that the city is expecting. And because we've articulated our support for that in our policy, I would anticipate that in the future, when there's a better idea of how much those things will be and how they fit into the existing structures, I would anticipate that will come to this board. And in many cases, this board is sort of the precursor to adjusting the city budget that goes to the Animal Services Center, because it is something that we've sort of put a priority on. So just acknowledging that process too. But I would anticipate that there will be a further budget adjustment in the future.
Madam Chair, if I may?
Go ahead, please.
Madam Chair, my question is directed to Assistant Manager Enriquez. In terms of the handbook, Mr. Enriquez, when can we expect that?
A lot of that documentation has already been done. I think we'll just have a few more meetings with Mr. Thacker and Animal Control to kind of consolidate that. Once the coordinator, the job description and the posting and everything is done, we'll work in sequence with that and try to get it as soon as possible.
So 2 months, 3 months?
Yeah, it might be, the job posting and all that will probably take a couple of months, so I would say, yeah, within a month, we can have that handbook ready.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you both. Any other questions from the board on this action item? Okay. Go ahead, Board Member Macias, please.
Forgive me for just diverting back to some of the prior discussion. I think it's somewhat associated with this. Clint, in terms of the discussion that we've been having in terms of outreach to the legislature and funding for capital improvement projects, you have an amazing constituency of animal advocate organizations in the community that I believe that you should incorporate in whatever efforts you make to our local delegation of senators and representatives, so they can really see the broad-based support that goes beyond just elected officials, elected or appointed officials, but it really goes into the community, which really draws their interest in supporting different projects.
Thank you.
So any kind of meeting, I just want to encourage you that you have not an overwhelming number, but still a select group. And I know that from time to time there are controversies and differences of opinions, but I think in general, the advocacy groups in the community really support better placement and better facilities for dealing with animals in the community.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Macias. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, Becky, would you please call the roll?
Board Member Macias?
Yes.
Board Member Flores?
Yes.
Board Member Ellens?
Yes.
Board Member Gandara?
Yes.
Board Member Sanchez?
Yes.
Chair Corral?
Yes.
Passes.
All right, next up, we have, after the action item, we have public input, and I know that there are some members of the community here. If you're here to speak officially, can you please raise your hand just really quickly so I can have a sense of who all's here to speak? Okay, I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to go from the left up, as is our tradition here, and start. You have 3 minutes, so if you can keep to that 3 minutes, I won't put on a timer, but I would appreciate your support in doing so. Thank you. So I'll start here from the left, going up. First rows, I assume no. Second row, third row, fourth row. Please come up. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Patsy Tarin, and I spoke at the City Council meeting here not too long ago in regards to the TNR program. And I have a couple of questions and would like a little bit of clarification. Probably might need it from Mr. Thacker. But at that meeting, they had discussed hiring a TNR coordinator, and at that point, they said that they thought that would be done probably within the next month. So as far as the discussion that y'all had earlier, it looks like the TNR coordinator position hiring is going to be held out for how long now?
This was one of two formal steps to make sure that it's officially approved. I normally wouldn't talk, but one of two formal steps that makes sure that it's officially approved and can be listed on the job description. So I think as soon as we finalize those steps and then move it to the HR department to get that moving.
Okay.
Hard to say, but with luck, it will be as soon as we possibly can. So,
Madam Chair.
Okay. I don't know.
Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Board Member Flores. Okay, please.
Thank you. So as far as hiring goes, it would go through the HR, the Human Resources Department of our city. And there are a number of factors that go into hiring. And I won't get into the weeds too much, but suffice to say that it's always a lengthier process than expected. One would think there's a posting, put it out, there'll be 10 million people, not maybe 10 million, but there'll be several people applying. And the way it's going right now, because we have a lot of vacancies, we have vacancies in most of our departments. And so I asked one department director, why? And the answer is, nobody's applying. So it isn't that the city isn't out there advertising, recruiting. It's just that people are not applying. So please understand that it's not because it's not being put out there. It's because there are several factors, but the big one is that people aren't applying for jobs. And this is department-wide. I don't know if the county's experiencing that, but I know we here at the city are. So anyway, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, and I apologize to have taken up time. I should just let you
no.
keep talking and finish your questions.
That's okay.
Thank you.
I understand it. I own a business too, and nobody is applying for a job. Are you all aware that there's a TNR event today? Okay. When I was here previously, one of the questions that I was asked is how many cats could they take in a day? And when I was up there today, they told me that they expected to do 50 cats today. So that was, I believe, one of Board Member Gonzalez's questions that you had for me at that time. And we were able to get some cats in today, but then again, it is only 2 cats per person again. So we're still working on trying to get under control when we get 2 cats in, but 4 more are born, so that kind of is a hindrance. The other thing is I heard, I believe it was Mr. Thacker say that they are doing hotspot sterilizations. I've left my information many times up at Ascmv and have not been contacted by anyone there, and have asked to be included in any kind of those events that might take place that could do targeting. So I would like to, find out more information about that. And the handbook that you spoke of, was that the handbook that's basically going to be the policies and procedures for the TNR coordinator that we're going to be waiting for, that's going to be like 2 to 3 months out? I'm not sure who spoke of that earlier. Okay.
Board Member Enriquez, do you want to talk about that more?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Tarin. The handbook that we're talking about is a combination of the duties of the shelter, the TNR coordinator, and the animal control officers. So a combination of those operations that hopefully we can get. Most of the documentation is already put together. We just need to compile that handbook. It might take a month or so.
Okay. Thank you, sir. And I would like to thank all of the board members for your attention today. And I would also like to thank everybody that works in animal control and Ascmv. The people up there were cranking it out today when everybody was bringing in the cats, and they are amazing people and doing the best that they can. And I just really appreciate everything that all of y'all and all of them are doing.
Thank you for coming, and thank you for speaking. Next up, that was the 4th or 5th row-ish. Jerry? No? Next up, okay. Go ahead. Come up, sir. We can help you get the microphone closer. All you have to do is state your name for the record, sir, and then say your comments, please.
Hello, my name is Samuel, and I like cats and dogs, and I love everybody who are standing up for them.
Thank you. That's good. What's your last name, Samuel, please?
Maestas.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. We're glad you're here. You want to keep talking? You're doing a great job.
That's all.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. We're glad you're here, buddy. Okay. That was a great job. Go ahead. Next step, please. Please be careful. Are you sure you're okay? Yeah. Okay.
My middle name is Grace.
My middle name is also Grace, and I have all the scars to prove it.
Yeah, really. All the aches and pains. Okay. My name is Renee Chavez. Manny, it's good to see you. It's good morning or good afternoon, whatever time. I'm here to speak because I was made aware of a situation, a wonderful situation, on behalf of fosters and what they do to accommodate the Ascmv. I always got to get those letters together. And basically, we want to help. I want to help. I know there's numbers galore. These people are incredible. Now, I know there was a miscommunication and whatever. Doesn't matter. What matters is that we need to move forward and we need to get help in, and everybody wants to help. I want to help. I'm a constituent, and I want to help Mr. Thacker. I know he's got a tremendous amount of responsibility. I'm retired. I spent 25 years in banking. I know what it is to have those responsibilities. Probably not those, but responsibility. But I am speaking on behalf of these fosters. They are remarkable. They have been terminated. Okay, there was a lot of confusion. There was a lot of emotion going on at the time. But what I'd like to help do is bring things to a positive, to help all of you as well. Because if we can connect, I'm a community constituent, and that's what I'd like to get involved in, is connecting a lot of the community to help also. What this foster has done, you need to hear about. She turned a negative situation into a positive. What was originally thought to be an abusive situation, she listened to this man, she educated him. Everything that you're saying, I agree with, because in regards to the levels that need to be addressed, the community needs tremendous education. One of the things on behalf of them also is that they're saving you hundreds of thousands of dollars by the work that they do. I see what they do. I've seen what they've done. By taking in the animals, they buy their own materials. The only thing that they rely on from the shelter is that they give them food and or medication. A lot of these fosters are medical techs. So please, please, don't let them go. We'd like to see, I know the community would like to see them continue to be involved to help, because we know that the center needs the help. So please listen to what I'm saying, and please, just reinstate them. Let's move forward. Let's get all the negative out, and let's go forward, because we want to do that. That's what I wanted to say, and these people, these girls are wonderful. And you'd be losing a lot by letting them go. There was quite a bit. So I thank you for your time. I really hope, if we need to continue, so we've got some wonderful ideas to share, to help forward, that are going to be cost effective, that can save, maybe not even cost anything, but just in the communication alone. And that's a big thing that I saw too when I first got involved, that there was a lot of glitches, and that happens. Communication needs to be clear and concise, and everybody needs to be in order. So and the fosters need an order. So basically, it's wonderful. Everybody's doing a great job. Everybody's trying. And the fosters are saving money. So why are you going to let that go? That's it. I just hope that you'll take all of this to heart, reconsider, reinstate these fosters. We're not sure of how many. It's been rather hectic and we haven't gotten figures, but please reinstate them, because they're wonderful. They help the sick animals, they make space for the shelter. So that's moving things in a positive forward motion.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for coming out.
To me.
Thank you for speaking.
Madam Chair.
Board Member Ellens.
Clint, in this regard, concerning that situation that was referred to with a foster that basically was terminated as an official foster of the Animal Service Center. 2, I think maybe 3 of your employees wrote a letter to this board explaining the Animal Services position regarding what had happened and the abuse, frankly, that our people have been receiving. Most of the negativity is coming over Facebook. Are there any plans to have these 2 or 3 employees who addressed us to use the same vehicle on Facebook so that some of the naysayers can see that there are 2 sides to the story?
For one, I was unaware that anybody wrote the board. I did not know that. 2, social media is, for lack of a better term, a necessary evil. I mean, we move a lot of animals through social media. To that regard, we move and do very successful things with Facebook. However, just one person posting something that's inappropriate or not true kind of poisons the apple or poisons the batch per se of a positive message we're trying to spin. So what I've been trying to do through this whole thing is answer questions that may be coming, and we try to do that via a private message to the individual. We have not been feeding this on Facebook because it's like feeding a monster, kind of in a way, lack of a better term, monster, but it's, if you've ever been involved in a Facebook argument per se, quote unquote, you know there's never an end to it, and it's never a good thing. So what we do is we say, call me, talk to me. Love to get the straight answer for you. So no, there's no plans for us to go out on Facebook and say our point of view has been spread across Facebook already by the individuals. They posted the letters that we written to them. Everybody can see our side of it. So that's the plan is to continue to spread the good, positive things that the Ascmv is doing.
Well, it seems to me there's a way to do it without saying that you're posting this on behalf of the Animal Service Center. These are individuals, employees, who can post anything they want, but it seems to me that their comments were so favorable that they cry out for publicity.
Again, I'm unaware of anything that was sent, so I can't comment on what the subject was for them, but I don't know of a way that we can get it out. And also, employees are not allowed to comment whatever they want to, especially while representing the Animal Service Center. That was the issue with what we had because we had to terminate the foster, was what happened under the name as an Animal Service Center foster. And just to be clear to the board, I've said online, I've said Facebook, and written in the letter to the individual, they are not banned from the Ascmv. They can still foster. They can still come, or they can't foster, but they can still rescue. And all they need to do is just join up with another agency. They can foster for another rescue. That's fine, but they can't do it in the name of the Ascmv. So there's still the opportunity for them to foster.
Well, I'll leave it to your discretion.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me know that there's support from the center. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Board Member Ellens, and thank you, Clint, and thank you for the comment. We'll keep going with public comment. Good morning, Harriet. Please state your name for the record.
Okay, good morning. I'm Harriet Danhouse, and can I pass these out to you guys?
Yes.
These are to be read. Okay, so I'm here today to request an inspection of public records, and I have it in writing here, but I would like to inspect and copy the following records: a list of all current fosters through the Animal Service Center of Mesilla Valley, as well as a list of fosters who have been terminated within the past 5 years. And with that, the following information: when they were terminated, how long they had fostered, what they were terminated for, and when they were notified of their termination. And I'm willing to pay whatever fee is necessary to get these records electronically copied or paper copied. I've asked the Animal Service Center several times why I was terminated, and I requested it in writing, and I have yet to receive an answer on that, a firm answer. I work for the city as well. I took time off from work to come to this meeting today to get the information that I've been seeking for the past month and a half. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you.
Harriet, just so you know, I will also email you a copy of the place where you can submit this request because I have your email, I think. Thank you. Next up, please. Come on down. State your name for the record.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Hain. Excuse the mask. I hope I sound okay. I'm just trying to be careful. Sure. Is that better? Not echoing anymore? All right. So I'm a new foster. I've been fostering since May and had the unfortunate experience of ending up right in the middle of this current mess when I started fostering. First, I'd like to say I think people underestimate what fostering costs, and not just economic cost, although those are significant, but also emotional cost. And when you have an animal in your home for an extended period of time, there is an attachment that comes, and there is a concern for the long-term consideration of the animal. And that's what you have with fosters. You have people who care. You have people who buy the pill pockets to give them the drugs. You have people who buy their beds. You have people that buy their leashes. We buy their harnesses. I have probably spent $600 on 2 fosters. I also helped, and Harriet helped. Harriet took one of my fosters who was getting adopted out of state all the way up to Nebraska and met another carrier to pick him up and take him to his new home in Illinois. We have more animals here than we can handle. I've done fostering, I've done animal advocacy for probably 25, 30 years, never officially with a shelter before, and I cannot understate the frustration that I've run into. Frustration with people, personalities, and those things shouldn't be in the way of everything. And I don't mean just with the fosters, I mean with staff, I mean with trying to get answers. So one of the things I have here is a list, and when you're looking through those packets, what you're looking at is 26 letters from people who were at that rally who state that the version told by the staff at the shelter, they don't match. We had children there. We had grandchildren there. We had huge numbers of community members. We had 17 fosters. We had at least one employee from the shelter who was there, off duty, voicing her own situation. And we were all off duty. None of us were representing the shelter, and none of us were rallying against the shelter. We were rallying against the laws that allow 3 dogs to be returned to a place where 2 fosters walked in to see 4 dead dogs on the ground. And then were asked to let those dogs go back after having them for 3 months in their home and in their care. We also have issues with the evidently there's an opinion that because somebody is a volunteer, they don't have rights. that they don't have rights to free expression. The First Amendment is not freedom of speech, technically, when you add in all the court cases. It's freedom of expression. And holding a rally, participating in a rally, organizing it, which, by the way, it was organized by multiple people. It was not one person, but one person got terminated for that. It was not organized and put to be against the shelter. I am sorry if the shelter staff felt differently. I also did not see Mr. Thacker there. He knew about that rally for several days beforehand. He knew the press was going to be there. One of the items in your packet is from a press person who was there and saw what was going on. And the description on his termination letter versus what happened. But either way, there is a right of non-retaliation against volunteers for freedom of expression. They weren't representing. Foster Snyder was not representing the shelter when she organized it, helped with it. We weren't recognizing the shelter when we went up. You were returning, a dog was being returned, not by the shelter. They were picking him up, which Foster Snyder mentioned 3 different times, one before they arrived, one in the middle, and one at the end. That doesn't match up with what the shelter staff is saying, but they weren't there for the one at first. 23 people, 23 constituents. At least 4 of them are people, when you were doing your go bond, came to my house. I was brand new back into the city. I grew up here and came back after 50 years. I'm from places where all dogs are fixed before they leave the shelter, all cats are fixed. It's a very different world, other places, and I get it, and I get how hard it is. And I do want to say, and it's off subject, my past history, I'm a compliance officer. I work for higher education. I work for law schools. When you're mentioning the difficulty in getting a veterinarians are considered professional licenses. There are scholarship opportunities and grant opportunities. One of the things that keeps a professional from coming and taking a job for $110,000, which sounds like a lot, but it's not. We all know that. It's not a lot of money. You have to either have dedication or nothing else to do, and that's not the kind of person you want. But there are programs, state and federal, to help them handle their student loan debt, because that's what's keeping them from coming. They just borrowed $450,000 they're going to have to pay back monthly, and they're being offered $110,000. But there are programs to help them pay that back. And working to make sure that's included when you go out and talk to them about why come to New Mexico. We do have a professional scholarship that will pay their interest on those loans. There are federal programs that you can pay back based on your income. So they're not spending. Even if all they borrowed was $213,000, I think is what $227,000, which is for just the Stafford loan, and most of them borrowed twice that. The monthly payment's $2,800 on that loan. How are they going to, at $110 a year, pay that back? But there are people that can help with putting that out there and how to help show how to make it affordable to take a job in an area like this, especially a job where they can accomplish so much. And that's the difficulty in the financial aid field we always had. So I just wanted to add that because I think when you're looking at what you can offer them, that's something that could be very valuable to a lot of people who are walking out with debt and have no idea how they're going to pay back those loans and feed their family and clothe their children.
Thank you.
I do have some additional public records requests because these are things that in your package you'll see that I've asked for and haven't received, or that Foster Snyder has asked for, or others. One is the Policies and Procedures Manual covering the fostering program. I've asked for it numerous times. You'll see the requests in that packet for it and haven't gotten it. A public records request in this state can be oral or in writing. Oral didn't work. In writing didn't work, now in official format, we're going to try again. Because to help in what we see as a huge problem, these are some of the things we need.
Thank you. If you can bring it up, that would be great. I would appreciate it.
And I would also like to know, I looked all over the website, could not find who the public records person.
Okay. Well, the city clerk, Christine Rivera, can help, but I'm going to send Harriet a message, but then I'll also follow up with you if this... Can you... What? Okay, awesome. We'll follow up. Thank you. Thank you very much. Next up. Okay.
Hello, good afternoon or morning. As you guys can tell, I'm a little bit nervous. This is my first time ever speaking. But hello, my name is Michelle Gonzalez. I'm actually a student at DACC. Today I've come to support our fosters because I do follow the Facebook page for Euthanasia Valley Animal Services. When I hear about these dogs being euthanized, I think to myself, the animals had a chance. And I'm sorry, I get emotional because, you know, they're no different than a human. They have a heart, they have feelings. And when I hear about these little dogs being euthanized, I think, you know, they deserve a second chance. If there's members in our community that are willing to give up their time, you know, get a space for them, take them to their appointments, why not give them a chance to be able to care for those animals? And, you know, and me as a future animal advocate, I think fosters are amazing. They even make a big impact in our community. Not too long ago, we were at a soccer field and my little sister said, "Mommy, that doggy needs help." So, you know, that impacted me, be like, hey, you know, you never know, the younger generations are coming up, and as they're getting older, they're realizing, hey, you know, these little animals need help. They might even be our future veterinarians, if you even think about it. So I've known Foster Schneider for a while now, and even though if it's not her dogs, like, she still helps out. Not too long ago, my little dog was sick, and I reached out, hey, you know, I need this help, you know, what can I do? And she gives me her advice, you know, and I've gone to her home and everything, and the animals look very, very happy. Something that really warms my heart, me as a pet owner, and maybe as you guys too, as pet owners, if you guys have one. You know, I'm pretty sure that's something everyone would want to see, you know, their pets very happy. You know, and I also took a visit at a shelter, and I've seen 2 dogs per kennel, and I think about, wow, you know, what is it like being trapped in a little kennel for these long hours, days, nights, when there's people that have big yards, you know, other dogs for them to interact with, and for them to get, you know, to be running around and be happy as animals. So I think having fosters in our community is a big impact and can definitely help many other shelters as well as your guys's, especially with the numbers going up, with space being so tight, and then I think a lot of dogs' lives would be saved, you know, if they give these fosters the opportunity, because they are a great help to our community. And I hope that deeply in your guys' hearts, you guys can realize what difference every foster can make in our community and the difference for a shelter. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your comment. Good job. And I'm going to call up the next public comment further. And I have to apologize. I have to run to a doctor's appointment right now, which is just across the street, but if you can take it over. Okay. I turn it over to former Chair Sanchez, and I apologize for having to run, but I'll be back as quickly as I possibly can.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So is there any other public comment? All right. Yeah. So we're on to chair and board comments. Are there any comments from the board at this time? Mayor Pro Tem Gondara, please.
Thank you, thank you. I appreciate everybody that came out today. Appreciate the comments. We'll definitely look into it, have some further conversations with Mr. Thacker about what are our next steps to move on. Secondly, I made mention last month about recommending that we have a strategic plan. Former Vice Chair Sanchez. Clint, you were not here, but I hope Bernice sent that over. I think this is an important thing to do in visioning right what the center is going to work on for the next 3 to 5 years. And so if we could get that scheduled and on the books, that would be helpful. And then finally, I want to say that if you're not familiar with me or aware what my expertise is, I worked in many years, 27 and a half years in the child welfare world, and we worked with our foster parents, and I know how invaluable our fosters were to us in that scenario. There were also rules and regulations that they had to follow very specifically. And I'm going to say that again, that there's rules and regulations, but I'm getting the feeling that people are unaware of what those are. And I'd like to publicly ask Clint to get us those policies and procedures for fosters and volunteers. I think those are all very important. We need to be as transparent as we can. If you have a website, those things need to be put up on those websites so there isn't any question. Also, I want to be clear, Chair Sanchez, in terms of IPRA requests, what sort of process, because we are an entity that serves both the city and the county, and for some reason people are not familiar with the process for these sort of joint groups. And so, Clint, if you could be clear about what those processes are specific to the Animal Services Center as it relates to IPRA requests, and where they might send it, how they can request it, that would be helpful. If it's not on our website, on the Ascmv website, it should probably be there. And if you could tell us specifically how to get to that point and what your process and the time frame by which, when people request, when they can expect it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Gondara. Okay. Seeing that there are no other board comments, then I'll ask for a motion and a second for adjournment. Moved by
Gondara.
Board member, by Councilor
You can't do that.
Okay. Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Gondara. I'll second the motion. So we'll call this meeting adjourned at 11:21 a.m. Thank you all for coming this morning.